Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome back to the Engine Builder Show. Our topic for today is how to avoid terrible branding mistakes that many entrepreneurs make. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and enjoy the show. Good morning, everybody.
There was always a ton to learn. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well and that your April has been successful so far. Last business day of the month, and we're 1 month through the second quarter here. So hopefully you're making progress and being intentional about what you're planning and executing every day, because there are only a friend of mine shared this with me the other day, and it really stood out to me. If you say you live, to be 80 years old, you only have about 4,000 weeks in your life. So it's always important to make sure that we plan and execute well, and we make each week count. And so hopefully you're doing that today. And I would encourage you to take time today as well to sit down and plan ahead for what you want to accomplish in May. And also, just what you want to accomplish each week. Each incremental step that we take is really how success is built. And as Jethro mentioned, I'm going to share some just kind of experiences and advice that I've had around branding, because working with over 1,000 startups over the years, past 20 plus years, I've seen people make really terrible branding mistakes that they end up having to walk out of. I have made really terrible branding mistakes too. So it's something that we all do. And ideally, I'd like to help you avoid these things. And also, talk about how you can get out of, if you did make a mistake, like I have a couple of times, how you can get out of that and be in a more solid place from a brand and marketing perspective. So one of the first things that I often see, and there are a couple exceptions to this, but in general, when I see somebody name their business after themselves, it reminds me of what I did years ago when I called one of my companies Gabe Construction. Now, that's great if you want to be the figurehead of your brand and your company. And there, again, on occasion, there are times where that makes sense to do. But often all that does is put us in a position where everybody's going to come to us. It also creates a little bit of murkiness legally, because when you start a business entity, it's supposed to be its own entity. If you name it exactly after you, then what's the difference between somebody working with you personally and working with your business? So there's some concern there that you can definitely explore more with an attorney who can give you actual legal advice, because I can't give you the legal advice. But the other thing that occurs is it doesn't make your business very sellable. And it makes it so that everything that goes on in the business, people associate with you and assume that you're the ultimate solution and the person they're going to come to. That's all well and good early in your business, but when things grow and change, you're not the only person that's going to deliver solutions. You're not the only person that can really help all the clients, and so it's generally ineffective. Again, there are some spaces where naming something after yourself makes sense, but a lot of times it doesn't. In the legal space with attorneys, I know firms are often named after the attorneys that are managing partners in those. I see that a ton, but I actually work with a law firm that's really successful and growing, really massively. And they chose to name their law firm in a way that attracted their ideal customer. And they're really successful. So they kind of broke that trend, and it was much more successful. And again, naming your business after yourself makes it really hard to sell if you ever want to sell it down the road. And even if you're not, in my opinion, even if you're not setting out with the intention of building and scaling and exiting your business and selling it, I still believe that it's wise to build so that you could sell if you ever needed to. So that's the first thing that I see a lot of, and I would recommend against, of naming your business after yourself. Again, there are probably a couple exceptions, but in general, it doesn't work really well. The second thing that I see even more commonly is choosing some cool or like original name that you think is going to really stand out, or it's so bizarre that people will be attracted to it. And people will often say things like, well, Uber, we didn't know what Uber was until until that blew up, or they'll name some weird business name of a business that's massively successful. And I remind them, well, the difference between you and Uber is Uber had hundreds of millions of dollars behind them. And so they could create market saturation. They could educate a whole market about who they are and what their brand name meant. And so it worked out. But often when we're starting out, that's not the case. We don't have millions and millions to put behind branding and marketing. And so choosing a weird name, all it does is confuse your audience. Ideally, and I've seen this in many cases, with the folks that I get to coach and serve. I've seen it with other, even more senior, kind of more experienced, established entrepreneurs that I've worked with. They recommend this. It's ideal for you to be able to name your company something that will be instantly recognizable. Give you a great example of when I did it wrong and when I feel like we did a lot more effectively here. So years ago, when I formed this company, it was called Tech 3, but it was spelled TEKK and the number 3. And so nobody knew how to pronounce it. They assumed we did some tech stuff, but they didn't know that we did any marketing. And I had that name for quite a few years. I realized that it was just not very effective. And so I made the decision to rebrand. And rebranding does not have to be overly difficult. There is time and money and some investment in it, but it's not overly difficult. And the people that do business with you and like doing business with you are still going to do business with you. It's not going to change that because you're still going to deliver what you deliver. So when I realized that nobody knew what Tech 3 meant and it wasn't really attracting the right people, then I decided, well, we're going to rebrand to something. And I decided to rebrand in a way that I would encourage you to rebrand, or when you're starting out, to choose a brand name that is really simple. Business Marketing Engine is instantly recognizable compared to Tech 3 because you go, oh, it's business marketing and it's an engine. It must, you have a marketing engine, you have things that are going out there, you have a system and a process that's working. But even just the first two words, business marketing, you're like, oh, I probably do business marketing. I know that sounds overly simplistic, but it's how you establish yourself and are able to, let people know instantly what you do, and you call out to the people that you want to work with. And as people work with us more, they just call us BME for short. And that's how a lot of brands, that are now popular actually started, with a full long name. And went from, their long name to an abbreviation or something that everybody says. But when naming a brand, don't worry about being cool or trendy or something unique. You're not coming up with a rap name. That's different. You're coming up with a business name that allows people to understand exactly who you are and what you do. And so simple names are a great example. A good friend of mine who's a massively successful coach and consultant went through the same iteration recently. His name is Alex Charfin, and he called his coaching program and his information products program Charfin, just after his last name. So one, it's a different name. So at least it wasn't like Arnold, like my last name. There's a ton of Arnold out there. It was a little bit of a more unique name, but nobody knew what Charfin meant. And you had to get into the company. You had to be referred in. You had to get in there, and then you would understand what it was about and how it would help you. But when I would go to talk to my friends about it and say, you should really join Charfin, they're like, what's that? So recently, I think it's within the last 6 months, or I think it was the first of this year, Alex changed his company name and his brand to Simple Operations. And he changed it to that because that's what they teach. They teach you to have simple, effective operations that allow your company to grow and scale. And I was able to join his program about a year ago. We grew the business 60%, and it's all from just having highly effective operations. And so, but now I can go to somebody and say, yeah, I'm in a program called Simple Operations, and they'll instantly have some recognition and understanding of what it's about, and it'll be easy for me to understand. So when you're creating a brand, when you're looking at naming your product or creating your business name or rebranding, because like I said, I've created not just my one business that was terribly named. I've created a couple businesses that had terrible names. But when you realize that, you can just rebrand. You want it to be something that people understand, so they understand, what you do and what you offer. So in doing that, you just want that simple, recognizable name, and you want it to be referable. Again, now it's a lot easier for me to tell my friends, oh, if you want to scale your business, you should join Simple Operations. It's super simple, and I can explain, and here's what they teach you. They teach you a highly effective operational model that allows you to scale profitably, and manage your team well. And it's just easy for me to explain. When our clients refer Business Marketing Engine, they can say, well, I work with Business Marketing Engine. They help me with all my marketing. They help me grow my business. They're essentially my marketing department. They're the engine behind our marketing. It would be much simpler than trying to explain the names that didn't make any sense. So as you're choosing your brand name, I would just encourage you to make sure that it's understandable, it's going to be referable, that folks are going to know exactly what you're doing, and what you offer, and just don't necessarily name your business after yourself. That's rarely a good idea. And also remember that the big brands that you may be comparing yourself to, they have millions of dollars in VC money behind building that brand and educating their audience. And so don't compare your strategy and how you want to start at the size you're at and have a referable, organically growing brand, and with marketing dollars behind it, but not hundreds of millions. Don't compare yourself to those brands. Just build your brand on good principles, and everything else will work out. So hope that's helpful. Hope you have an amazing weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.